we're going to get started on our second panel about procurement. We have a couple of guests here. Mely, Cung, Regional Manager, Development and Partnerships for Procurement Assistance Canada, Quebec Region, and Steve Laveau, Director of Development and Community Relations for the FNQL EDC, First Nations of Quebec and Labrador Economic Development Commission. Okay, good to have you. First off, maybe you can just start off with a brief introduction of yourselves and tell us a little bit about your organization.
We just have one mic?
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thank God we know each other.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so my name is Mely Cung. I'm the Regional Manager at Procurement Assistance Canada. For those of you who don't know what my organization is, basically we're part of Public Services and Procurement Canada. We're here to help out small and medium enterprises to sell their goods and services to the Government of Canada. We offer free seminars, webinars, one-on-one individual coaching services and help, because as it was mentioned in the last panel, if you guys were here, there's a great opportunity that the Government of Canada is offering to Indigenous businesses. We have a target of a minimum 5% of all annual contracts awarded towards, awarded to have it towards Indigenous businesses. And because we buy around $37 billion per year, make the math. I'm not here at this hour to make the math for you, but there's a lot of money on the line, and it's a great opportunity for Indigenous companies. So we're here to help to debunk all the myths that it's really hard to sell to the government. For example, 90% of all purchases are low dollar values. So there is smaller opportunities. We don't just buy big contracts, big fire jets. I was a buyer before being a regional manager, and my first contract was to buy toilet papers. Yes, it's glamorous, but we do buy toilet papers. So if an Indigenous company wants to sell toilet papers to the government, there's an opportunity here. So I'll let Steve introduce himself, and we'll get going on the conversation afterwards.
Thank you. Shower curtains too. I was surprised to learn about that. So, Koi everyone. My name is Steve Laveau. I'm from the Wendat Nation, Wendake, Quebec. I've joined the FNQLEDC, First Nation Quebec Labrador Economic Development Commission. It's not an easy acronym, but we've been there for 25 years. This year is our 25th anniversary, FNQLEDC. That started up 25 years ago as a pilot project, because at that time we were there to help remote communities in their economic development, to support EDOs at that time in their economic development. And after a couple of months, years, they said this could be a good idea. And that's when they created the FNQLEDC. When we started up, at that time, there were 2 employees. When I arrived in 2018, we were 8 employees. And now we're close to 25 employees. And we'll be getting to 30, maybe in the next year. So basically, what I do at the FNQLEDC, we've changed a bit of our the titles of what we do. I'm the Director of Development and also relations with different communities. So, for example, in the ecosystem, there are 43 communities in Quebec. In each of these, there are economic development officers, directors, advisors, organizations such as here. So we are there to support all of these EDO people, between 50 and 60 people in the network. So we try to help them out depending on what their needs, their goals, their challenges, the issues. So for example, here we work with Brandon. It was previously with Corinne, other people with Daryl's team. So we help out as we can. You saw before Miriam that also works with me. There's Tanya that works with us also on the procurement side, and that's what I'll be talking about today, procurement. we work with Mely's team, and also to give you examples on opportunities that are out there for Indigenous businesses and how the FNQ LDC, we can help you out with that. There you go.
I didn't know the numbers were so big, Mely, but I know 5% of 40 billion would be 2 billion, which is easy arithmetic. I was amazed. We ended the earlier session by talking a little bit about procurement. So it feels like an overwhelming thing to me. It seems a little bit big. It feels a little complex and inaccessible to small Indigenous businesses. But maybe can you walk us through how the organization is working to make it more accessible for Indigenous businesses?
Okay, so I'll start. So for the FNQ LDC, actually, we started this in 2019. I was actually invited by Mely or someone from her team to join a committee in regards of initiatives organized by the federal government on procurement. At that time, I had no idea what procurement was, what were the opportunities, how this worked out, and so on. So I decided to join the committee, and this is how it started up. After a couple of meetings, and then being involved with other gatherings, meetings, and sessions, and stuff like that, that's when I saw that there are interesting opportunities for Indigenous businesses. After some time, the federal government started to talk about a specific target, which is 5%, which is a minimum. So from there, that's when we started to, I convinced my boss at the time, Michael, that this could be very interesting for us to get involved, to also travel throughout communities, to give some sessions, awareness on all these opportunities, what are the step-by-step to be able to be part of these opportunities, small, medium, and large size contracts, and also because there is an incentive for the government to hire Indigenous businesses. So that's how we started being involved in this. In 2022, there was an event which is still going, which is the Grand Circle event organized by us and also the provincial government. And we got funding at that time to be able to hire some people to work on the opportunities for the provincial opportunity side. And that's when Tanya arrived with us, and she is now our specialist. So we've developed, actually Tanya has developed some workshops, seminars, presentations. She's been traveling throughout different communities. We have a booth here today, if you like to stop by to see her, and encourage your business people, entrepreneurs to sign up, and we will offer them some accompaniment to register, the step-by-step. If eventually we need, the panel before talked about funding that can also be explored, but we are there to offer an accompaniment to register and also to find the different opportunities and to walk the entrepreneurs through the different steps. And later on, I'll have a couple of examples for you. So that's what we do at this time.
Yeah, I think the key thing here is we work together. We try to have established partnership. I think that it was last year that we did a podcast with Tewa. We work monthly with Steve on opportunities to make sure that Indigenous companies are aware that we purchase different goods and services, and we have tons of examples, but every time we do a purchase, we try to work internally as well within the government to make sure that buyers, they think first about Indigenous businesses. We have to make them have the reflex to think about Indigenous businesses, and we have to debunk the myth also from within, which is there's no capacity. No. All Indigenous businesses are growing. I think in the last panel, is it Daryl who said there was 12 companies and now there's many more? Things get evolving, so we have to be evolving as well, and working into establishing partnership where we have our ears open and we can hear what's going on and we can debunk those myths. I was talking about the purchases of low dollar values. For us, it's $25,000 for goods, $40,000 for services, and $100,000 for construction. It's all like, it's considered low dollar value. And when we do have low dollar value, we can go into a smaller competition within 3 companies. It's less frightful, can we say that? C'est moins épeurant. Less intimidating, and maybe easier to get into selling to the government. So there's some help that we can give Indigenous companies to have the reflex, the tricks, the tips on how to access those small dollar values. And again, did I say that we were a free service? I want to say it's really free, and it's rare in this world. Everything you have to pay for something, but we are here to help.
So maybe what are the gaps in engagement or the challenges in engagement? Is this something as simple as going onto a website and registering your business? And how is it evolving? How is the procurement side of things making it simpler for Indigenous businesses?
For us, there is a couple of platforms that you have to register to have access to see the tender offerings. We have the website Canada Buys, where you can see everything that the government is buying over the low dollar values for sure. So let's say above 25,000, it has to be published on Canada Buys. So when you do register to our e-procurement web system, you can get access to the documents to bid. But to be able to do that, there's a procurement language that you have to learn. It's not easy. I'm not going to tell you lies. It can be intimidating to just look at all the different directory that a company needs to register to, but we're there to help step by step. Tanya as well is there to help step by step, and we work together on a couple of files to get an Indigenous company to get registered to all the different platforms. But once it's done, it's so once you know the procurement language, it's so easy to just try and to get opportunities. And we're so happy to say that some companies that we helped out were able to get contracts, and we want to see more success stories. So I think the key here is when we work together, we can achieve great things, and one step at a time.
Okay, I'll try to complete a bit. One thing, the key element is to be registered into the registry. And this is often a challenge, because if the business is not registered in the registry, well, it's difficult for, we're talking about the federal government today, but the provincial government, Hydro-Québec, and any others that want to give contracts to Indigenous businesses. If you are not registered in the registry, they can't find you. Often we have different organizations that turns to us to say, Steve or Tanya, we have this opportunity that's coming up. Do you know any Indigenous businesses that could apply on it, for example? So yes, but again, sometimes when there is a tender that is posted, it's sometimes a short delay. If you are not registered, if you didn't do all the paperwork, etc., unfortunately, you won't be able to answer this. Second thing, if you are registered, we are talking a lot about the low value contracts. It's always difficult for me, even after 8 years, to say low dollar contracts. 85% of our indigenous businesses are small and medium size. If our businesses start to get contracts of 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 regularly, this is not a small contract, it's a big contract. So the key is, once you get the first, it's easier after that to get the following. But again, if you are not registered in the registry, they won't find you and they won't be able to call upon you. The other thing too, and I don't know if we'll get into this later on, but when these contracts are like 25,000 or under 40,000 or under 100,000, they are much easier to access than the $1 million contracts, because it's a direct purchase. So, for example, if I am a buyer at the government and I'm looking for a plumber, or I'm looking for a caterer, or I'm looking for a toilet paper person, if it's under $25,000, I just go into the registry and I just call them up or call her up. And this is direct purchase. So it's much easier. You don't need to have a lot of paperwork. You don't need to have all kinds of licenses and stuff like that. And as Mely mentioned before, 90% of the purchases are low dollar value contracts. So if indigenous businesses would be more present in the registry, more visible, well, they would be able to have access to more of these opportunities, because unfortunately, for different reasons, people from the government, they can't just Google and then decide, okay, we'll call him, we'll call her. Well, no, there has to be a certain process to make sure, of course, that the business is legitimate, the business is, so for these different reasons, but this is not just for indigenous, it's for any business that wants to deal with the government. You need to register. Same thing for Hydro-Québec, same thing for any other, McGill University. These are all files on which we work. The City of Montreal, for example, is the same. So it is sometimes a bit of a struggle or issue or a challenge to register, because you have to start over again and another Tanya is there to help the business people out. So if it's a bit a challenge for them, but once you're in the registry, then it's easier after that. And all of these contracts, well, they count for the 5% target. So this is an incentive for the buyers to call upon indigenous businesses. But again, if they are not in the registry, it won't be possible for them to call them up, because if they are not there, but this is not just because it's indigenous business, it's a way, of course, to do their business. So for us, and I don't know if we'll get to this question later on, but this is a bit of a challenge for us, because Tanya, that travels through the different communities, does different presentations. We offer the accompaniment to register to the different registries, step by step. And but just this step, sometimes it's a difficulty for her, because they say, it's too complicated, and why should I do this? And I might not even get any contracts, and so on. So this is a challenge for us, even to promote or to encourage mostly businesses to be able to get into it. And why we do this? It's because, of course, we are the Economic Development Commission. We are there to help communities with their economic development, businesses to be created, to expand, create jobs and stuff like that. So that's why procurement, as they said before, and I say regularly, these are very interesting opportunities for indigenous businesses, but for all businesses, but more particularly because there is an incentive, but it's also a good customer to have the government, because when they call upon you once, they will call you maybe back a second time, and it's not difficult to get paid either by the government compared to other clientele sometimes with who people might deal with. So I think I said a lot, I don't even remember the question, but anyway, I'll send it back to you.
Or maybe I can add something. I think I said that sometimes businesses don't know what the government is purchasing, but sometimes procurement agent or a contract specialist, they don't know what businesses are selling. So the directory is a way to have people know what you're selling, and that way we think about you when we do want to purchase your goods or services. In the past, we did some reverse trade shows. Basically, we brought purchasing agent, contracting officers, and they had the booth. And we had indigenous companies come in and talk to them. So the networking here was really important. So we could have a really good conversation on what the company was selling, and then I think it was welcomed as an opportunity. We did 2 in 2024. This year, in February, we're going to do one targeting more innovative, like the theme is innovation. It's not only for indigenous companies, it's for all small and medium enterprises. It's going to be in Montreal, in Square BDC. So, but it's going to be, again, an opportunity to have the buyers meet companies. So if you want to take that note, we'll make sure we send Tewa the information, and they can invite everybody to come in to this. We call it an SME fair, so a small and medium enterprise fair.
Thank you, guys. So maybe like procurement still, it sounds so big to me, but we're talking about small contracts. Are we talking about, like, here, I think of selling office supplies to Ottawa, but like, who buys office supplies for the airports, the harbors, the federal jurisdictions, the prisons, the military bases? Are these like, they each have a purchasing agent in all of these places?
Well,
or do they have regional purchasing agents?
We do have regional purchasing agents, public service and procurement. PSPC, Public Services Procurement Canada. Well, my main department. I don't even know my own acronym in English. Oh my God. Anyways,
we get acronyms.
Right. So we do purchase for a bunch of client departments, as we call them. So we purchase for the defense, for Parks Canada, even the Canadian Space Agency. So we do buy satellites. But each department, they have their own purchasing, also regional office. So it might be 1 or 2 persons. So that's why we have what we call a registry for all employees of the government. Sometimes there's some governments, some departments who don't share the names of their employees, like the RCMP and maybe some defense department. But we mostly all supply specialists, they're in there. So if you go to our booth or kiosk, we can tell you how to find out who are the purchasing agents in different departments, and you can call them. You can tell them you exist. You can say, "Oh, here's what I sell. Do you buy, for example, catering services?" Yes, we do. Sometimes we do events. We call, like, we're looking for catering services. So that's the way, like, you can actually call live people who are doing purchases. And, like, in PSPC, we do have a greater number of purchasing agents, which I was part of back in the days.
What I can add from my experience over the time, it's really surprising all the purchases that the Canadian government will have to do. For example, at the borders, you have dogs, because for people that are crossing the border, you have to give food to the dogs, so they're looking to buy food as well. So, and Tanya, I think you had participated in this. There's correct me if I'm wrong. There's a entrepreneur in Odanak. You know les biscuits là? C'était-tu avec toi ça? No? Marianne? C'était avec Marianne? Yeah, okay. So I mixed up. But there's a indigenous business in Odanak, I believe, that makes cookies for dogs. So when I heard about this opportunity, I put her in contact with someone in Mely's team. So it's just to go to show that if you are registered in the registry, it's surprising on how you can maybe sell your goods or services eventually, because the government buys all kinds of stuff. So it's not just office and furniture and stuff like that. It's all kinds of goods. So and we don't always think that as an entrepreneur, that what we produce or what we make or what we can be useful for the government, because we figure that basically it's like paper and computers and stuff like that, but it's not the case. For example, if they have some kind of event near an indigenous community, well, they will often call us to see, do you know a caterer? Do you know a photographer? Someone for the video? Someone for such and such a thing? So, but again, for these people to be able to be part of the chain, well, they need to be registered. So that is the challenge that we have. But it can be very surprising on what they would need. I know that Tanya most recently worked on a deal where they were looking into buying, c'était quoi? C'était des caisses d'écoute? Headphones? Headphones. So they were looking into buying some headphones. So we helped out an entrepreneur, indigenous entrepreneur, that was in this kind of business. Of course, it's not headphones that are made here, but it's his business. So we helped him out and he got the contract, because the tender at the beginning, and this is an example of sometimes when we work it, we could get it to work. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the initial tender was for like a $800,000 or $900,000 contract for headphones. They needed 10,000 pairs or something like this. Maybe the figures are not correct, but it's just to give you the example. Huh?
Was it a little bit higher?
Higher than that? Okay, well, let's keep it at that. Now, so initially, of course, for financial reasons, for the entrepreneur, it was impossible. If you want to sell something, you have to buy it, and you make a profit on what you sell, okay? But you have to have the inventory. But for different issues, as you know, we're on reserve and financing and stuff like that, it was difficult. So if the deal was as it was, let's say for $800,000, it was impossible for the entrepreneur to get this deal for financial reasons. So finally, how it worked out, instead of doing just one order, they were able to separate in 3 specific orders. This way, instead of having one order of, let's say, $900,000, we did 3 of $300,000 on a couple of month difference, because they didn't need it. They didn't need the earphones all at the same time. So this way, the entrepreneur was able to order the stuff, get them, sell them to the government, get paid off, order again. So it was a good deal for him, because he was able to sign a $800,000 or $900,000 deal. So if it was as it was, it wouldn't have happened. But on the other hand, he was able to get it. So sometimes by working it with our help, Tanya most specifically, and discussing and thinking sometimes out of the box, well, we can find some solutions. It doesn't work every time, but imagine for this small business of 14 employees, one contract of $900,000. It was really a good shot for Tanya. And not long after this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, a couple of weeks after that, well, he got called upon again by the federal government for another contract, but for different reasons, the delay was too short, and other different reasons, he had to turn it down. But before this, he did not deal with the government, but from this time on, well, now he did it once, he knows how it works out, it was beneficial for him, for his business, and so on. So, but this is, let's say, a large example, but we don't have to go to that. We can, as I said before, they often buy small amounts, or $25,000, $40,000, So this is the angle on which we are trying to work. I say we, it's mostly Tanya, for example. So of course, it's interesting when it's $1 million contracts, and this is okay. It's okay for larger size companies. It's okay for indigenous businesses out west, because in the west it's not the same as in the east. But the reality for us in Quebec, well, we have most of our businesses are small and medium-sized businesses. So this is a way, I believe, to get indigenous businesses or First Nation businesses interested in procurement, and with our help, for example, with their help, the step-by-step, but mostly to get registered. And once you get a first contract, well, then it's easy to get a second, a third, a fourth. Yeah, so that's what I could say about that.
Steve, what is different in the West? Do they have bigger businesses or focused on it?
Well, they do have some bigger differences, but with all the natural resources out there and the way businesses are set up, there are lots of joint ventures and big projects and stuff like that. So it's not because they are really more different than us. It's just that the opportunities are much different than what there are here in Quebec. Here, often big projects with Hydro-Québec and other big organizations, it's not the same dynamic as out west. So that's what I mean. So with the federal government, it's a bit the same idea. Considering projects that they have going out there, there are many joint ventures between communities, joint ventures between indigenous businesses and non-indigenous, and lots of partnerships. So that's pretty frequent, I would say, from what I observe and understand out west, which is not necessarily the case here in Quebec, for example. So that's the difference, I would say. They're not better than us. It's just that the situation is different, and also because of course, the land, the territory, and other things. So yeah, that's what I would say.
As an action step for an indigenous business, do you feel indigenous businesses in the Quebec region, like in a community like Kahnawà, should consider partnering up with a non-indigenous business to bid on a certain contract? Or I'm thinking back to the contract, like you was talking about pet food for animals that are used in policing, or are these like a person who's already in the pet food business, or they match up with somebody, or would an indigenous business be thoughtful to think about starting a business specifically to take advantage of the procurement opportunities?
Well, they can surely do some partnership for sure. I would say if you don't know what the government buys, you can go on Canada Buys. I know it's the same words put together differently, but you can see what we purchased in the past. So if you look at what we purchased in the past, sometimes it gives you a good idea of what we're going to purchase in the future, because we're basically using the same things, but sometimes purchasing from other companies. So yeah, if you see an opportunity to have a pet food company, and you see it's always the same company who wins it, maybe it's because they have no competition yet. So that's an idea. So also to get into the business, or you can even do a joint venture. There's also a possibility to be able to answer bigger contracts as well. So yeah, I think the community here can be really entrepreneurial and think about other opportunities to network together and maybe answer bigger opportunities, bigger bid standards and stuff like that.
Well, my thoughts about that, different thoughts. If we just have in mind, like the procurement opportunities, as we said before, most of them are given out to small, medium-sized businesses. So you don't necessarily have to create or a joint venture for these opportunities, because they're all let's say under 25,000 or under 40,000 and so on. Now, let's say, for example, that you want to create a business to take part of larger size opportunities that could be interesting. I can give an example with us in Wendake, for example. We've created a business called Owasta, which is in steel. And the reason why we did that in Wendake is because there are many steel opportunities that are coming up. For example, there's the bridge on Ile d'Orléans. When you and I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe they got the contract about that. So there was a strategic alliance between a steel company in Beauce to create this new company, to create some jobs, and to take part of these big opportunities or projects. So I wouldn't say that it's absolutely necessary. It can be strategically interesting if you don't have the know-how or the workforce, or if you want to take part of maybe a field in which it's not possible for you to do it just on your own. They talked a bit before about business transfer. At the FNQ-LDC, we've created the business transfer service for 18 months now, close to 2 years. Just for your information, I think we have maybe 80 or close to 100 files on which we are working. I think there are 15 or 20 files that have been finalized, and these are situations where you have an indigenous business person that wants to purchase a non-indigenous business and transform it into an indigenous business owned and operated. Also another situation where you have people that when they want to retire, they want to transfer their business to relatives, friends, people from the community and so on. So with our business transfer service, it's possible to purchase or sell or transfer your business. So again, if there is opportunities that are out there, and that you have the interest in having a business in a field that does not exist, but the business already exists, but it's non-First Nation or non-Indigenous, well, it's possible to acquire the know-how, the machine sometimes, and to transform it to indigenous business, to after that take part of opportunities that are dedicated to indigenous business. As we said before, the federal government has a specific target of 5% minimum. It is a minimum. It can be over this. So strategically, it can be interesting for someone that wants to take advantage of this, to either create a business or buy an existing business to be able to grow, to have more capacity, because sometimes that's also another challenge for our business people. They are small. They don't have many employees. They already have many contracts, many clients over the years. So sometimes when we meet entrepreneurs, they say, yeah, but if I want to take part of these opportunities, well, I have to grow as a business. I have to find some employees. It has to be simple, because it's not always simple to register and follow the tenders, apply on them, and have the financial necessary to be able to obtain the contracts. But these are all things that we can do with our group to be able to look what is the best situation, as you do here, because just locally here, yesterday in the presentation I learned there's 500 businesses here in Kahnawà. So for sure that some of the business people here can be interested in the opportunities for the federal government, the provincial government. I work in the Hydro-Québec plan that they have, you know. I know that we're here for federal, but just to let you know, Hydro-Québec has engaged in giving out $1 billion in contract to First Nation businesses in the next 5 years. This is $250 million a year. We are part of this initiative. And we are working with them to see how we can promote all of this and help businesses take part of the procurement for Hydro-Québec. And it's the same thing with other government departments. I met with Canada Post recently, Laveau, Quebec. The City of Montreal has an initiative about this, McGill University. So we have many we have many organizations that turn to us as an organization to be able to see how we can promote these opportunities into different communities, different nations, because they are very interested in dealing with the businesses and giving contracts, and they are even setting some targets to be able to give an incentive to be able to give out these contracts. So these are all services that we offer. And here, just in your community, you have many, many businesses and potential for the city of Montreal and the surroundings. So I encourage you and your businesses to give us a call, let us know. You can go to see Tanya, because there is, and I think one of the reasons why there are not more indigenous businesses involved, it's because there's a lack of information, know-how, too complicated. Why should I bid on a contract? Because of course I won't get it anyway. These are all arguments that we've heard over the years, but I strongly believe that it's not the case. Of course, you need, as an entrepreneur, you need to put some time, some effort, but we are also there to help these people out. But there's lots of money there to be able to help small businesses grow, create some jobs, economic development, and so on. And even though we're talking about the federal government, I don't work for the federal government, as I mentioned before. I work for the FNQ LEDC. We are there to help the 43 communities under economic development, EDOs, help businesses to start up, to grow, and so on. And I strongly believe that procurement, if it's the federal government, the provincial government, the City of Montreal, Hydro-Quebec, University of McGill, and so on, there are many opportunities in all of this, but it's just to choose and take some time to invest. And as I said before, just the example of the entrepreneur that got a contract of $800,000 or maybe more, this is very interesting, and this is just one contract. And we don't have to think that big. We just have to start small. Often what I say to my friends, but because we've been working together for 4 or 5 years now, why don't we try to find quick wins? If we want to convince people to get into it, you need a quick win. It has to be simple. It has to be quick. It has to give a certain result. $5,000, $10,000, 15, whatever. And when it starts with that, then it will encourage the entrepreneur, the business, to go for a second and a third. And also, as we know, in our communities, word goes fast. So if someone gets a good success, well, he will then become, hopefully, an ambassador for other businesses locally and say, you know what I did? Well, I applied on this tender and I got it, $10,000. And then I went again and again. And then, well, this is how we can start things up, or hope that things will pick up. And again, I do not work for the government, but I believe in economic development and good opportunities for our business people and for to be able to create jobs and etc. So that was not in my script, but that's what I had to say.
And if you have an hour to invest, an hour and a half, I would say come in and register to one of our webinars. You'll learn more about how to sell your goods and services to the government. Again, it's free, but I think it's worth it. It will debunk some of the myths you may have on what the government buys.
I had no idea procurement was that big of a marketplace for Indigenous businesses. So the actionable piece of advice you can give to our audience is get their business registered into the system. It is a little bit bureaucratic, a little bit complicated, or not too bad.
It can take 10 to 15 minutes if you're well. If someone help you out, it can take 10 to 15 minutes, but it's not complicated, and that's why I say invest in an hour and a half webinar. We can explain all the steps. So yeah, the registry, the directory, I think it's a key element.
And the other thing too is once the business is registered, of course, you have access to the different opportunities and tenders. You can also set up, but this is Tanya that is the specialist, you can set up some alerts. So depending on what you sell or what you can provide, you can tick different fields. So when there's a tender that pops up, well, whatever you ticked, you'll receive a notice to let you know, this is an opportunity that corresponds to what you selected, for example. But as I said, as long as you're registered, if you are not, you'll have to go through the opportunities daily. And a service that Tanya offers for the businesses that sign up for the service is she receives notifications on a daily basis, and then she goes through them, and then she will contact businesses that have signed up to our services. That's right, huh? That's right, okay. And if ever that you are interested, or if you know people that are interested, Tanya is here again tomorrow morning. She is giving a workshop. And she has some people that have signed up so far, but she still has some place. And it's organized with Brandon that works here. So just to let you know, it is tomorrow, a drop-in event from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it's at the training conference room. And all the information is here. So if you want to read about it, or you can go by the kiosk, orders Tanya, that's right here. I know that some people have signed up, and during this time, she will explain the step-by-step, or at least give you or give the people most of the information. And if there's not enough time, well, she'll just be able to meet with the person with a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting and go through the step-by-step. And this is what she does. She travels throughout the different communities to be able to offer her services. All these services are for free. All the services at the FNQ LEDC are free anyway. And even to be part of the registry, there's no fee for this. Absolutely not. So if ever people are interested in learning more, they can stop by to see Tanya today or tomorrow between 9 and 2 p.m.
So we have time maybe for one question. Anybody in our audience have a question? Yeah. Go ahead.
Aboriginally owned, indigenous company, business, enterprise, that's the key, correct? So ownership of whoever, ideally more than 51%, of course, but you know, it sounds almost like there's an opportunity for wholesalers or middle bargaining type of businesses, which might be a little bit easier than going from, say, procurement. You think manufacturing, you think, well, what are my products? You don't necessarily have to manufacture your products. You could be a facilitator to acquiring those products and be yes, I'm sure, you know, being an Aboriginal, an indigenous business owner, I prefer to work with other Aboriginal and indigenous owners. But there is opportunities out there to be strategic about it, let's say.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
There is opportunities.
You got me juiced up, you didn't know.
And the same thing, if I talk about ID1N, if you want buy our kiosk, the ID1N is to identify yourself as a indigenous entrepreneur. We have at this time 650 businesses that are registered, artisan, business, and so on. And again, to be able to qualify in a certain way, you need to own the business or majority, okay? But it is to identify or authenticate the individual. This is what we're looking for the bear. So of course we have artisans that make moccasins, that make clothes, they make, yes, But also, we have indigenous business people that don't make, but they sell stuff. They can sell furniture, they can sell other goods, they can sell their service as well. So, for example, if I'm an accountant and I want to offer to do reports, financial statement, and stuff like that, well, of course, the financial statement is not handmade, it's not arts and craft and stuff like that, but my service is indigenous because I am indigenous. So for the government, for the Hydro-Québec, for the City of Montreal, for McGill University, and it's not because I'm promoting these, but we're involved in these, well, the main thing, the person indigenous or not? If it's a business, is it majority owned by an indigenous or not? 51%, but even more than that. Who is controlling the business? Is it just, this is something that we don't want. So tomorrow, the person, if I'm a partner with Mely, Mely has all the expertise, the know-how, and so on. I'm just like, no. Tomorrow, if I leave, the business keeps on. Well, this will not qualify, for example. So just to get back to your question, yes, you don't have to make moccasins and clothes or arts and craft. As long as you are indigenous, or the people in the business that own the business are indigenous, if the services, if the products are not made directly, that's not important. The important is who owns the business, and this allows you to take part of the initiative in the Canadian government, the 5%, for example. This is what they are looking into, to be able to say this is an indigenous business. So it's not just the product itself, it's who owns it and how does it work out.
Oh, I never knew procurement was that big of an opportunity. Thank you so much, Steve and Mely. Thank you very much.